Unmasked. The Nephilim code, the ancient blueprint, they're still running on you. What if the most powerful weapon ever built wasn't a sword, a bomb, or a drone? What if it was a story? And what if that story, written thousands of years ago, is still being used on you right now? Tonight, we unmask it. Most people who've heard the word Nephilim think of giants, fallen angels, ancient mythology, something you read about once and filed away under interesting but irrelevant. That's exactly what they want you to think. Because the Nephilim were never just a story about giants, they were a prototype, a field-tested, battle-hardened narrative technology designed to make ordinary people accept extraordinary violence as not only necessary but holy. And once you see the architecture, you will never stop seeing it. Let's go back to the beginning. Genesis 6, before the flood. The text tells us that beings called the sons of God, in Hebrew, Bene Elohim, came down and produced offspring with human women. The children born from those unions were called the Nephilim, heroes of old, men of renown. But here's what the text is actually doing. When the Israelite spies returned from Canaan in Numbers 13, they had one report. We saw the Nephilim there. We looked like grasshoppers next to them. Now think about what that label just accomplished. The people already living in that land with their own history, culture, and families were no longer just a rival population. They were cosmically contaminated. They were the descendants of a forbidden union between divine rebels and human women. You don't negotiate with that. You don't coexist with that. You eliminate it because their very existence is described as a stain on the created order. This is the oldest power move in recorded history. Attach a supernatural contamination label to the people whose land you want, and suddenly conquest isn't conquest anymore. It's cleansing, it's obedience, it's God's will. Now hold that structure in your mind because you are going to see it again. But the Nephilim story doesn't stop at physical giants. There's a second layer that almost no one talks about. The Watchers, the divine beings who fathered the Nephilim, didn't just produce hybrid offspring. According to Enoch, they taught humanity things they weren't supposed to know. Azazel taught metallurgy, weapons making, others taught astrology, pharmacology, cosmetics, enchantments, and here is where the architecture becomes sinister. The text isn't saying this knowledge is wrong, it's saying this knowledge is illegitimate because of where it came from. The origin contaminates the content. You see what that does? It gives whoever controls the approved sources of knowledge the power to delegitimize any knowledge system they want to suppress, simply by labeling it as Watcher-derived, demon-taught, forbidden. This is exactly what happened when European missionaries encountered indigenous astronomical systems that rivaled their own, medicinal plant knowledge that outperformed their treatments, agricultural techniques refined over centuries. None of that knowledge was examined on its merits. It was labeled as coming from a corrupted demonic source and therefore dismissed entirely. The Nephilim framework provided the template. Control what's considered legitimate knowledge, and you control what people are allowed to understand about the world. Now here's where the three threads come together. The Nephilim episode in Genesis doesn't just introduce hybrid beings, it sets up the flood, and the flood is not presented as punishment, it's presented as necessity. Because once the narrative establishes that the world has been irreversibly contaminated, not by human error, but by a cosmic hybrid corruption that has penetrated the population itself, the only logical response is total destruction and rebuilding from a purified remnant. Noah and his family carry forward what is pure. Everything else gets washed away. Now let me show you where that exact structure has appeared since. The eugenics movement of the early 20th century didn't invent a new argument, it borrowed a very old one. The idea that certain populations carried a biological contamination, a corrupted bloodline that threatened the purity of civilization, that normal social remedies were insufficient, that only systematic elimination could protect what was pure. different vocabulary, same operating system, and it didn't stop there. Every drain the swamp political movement, every purge the deep state rhetoric, every civilizational collapse narrative that frames a specific group as an infiltrating corruption that must be rooted out before society can be rebuilt, all of it is running on the Nephilim template: contamination, hybrid threat, insufficient remedies, total reset, purified remnant, 3,000 years, same code. But here is the detail that should stop you cold. Genesis 6:4. Read it carefully. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward. The flood was supposed to cleanse the corruption. Noah's family was supposed to be the pure remnant. The reset was supposed to work, but the Nephilim came back. The text never explains how. It simply states they were there before and they were there after. And do you understand what that does to the narrative? It makes the threat permanently renewable. The enemy was never fully eliminated. They can always return. Their descendants could be anywhere, among anyone. Right now, this is the logic of a permanent emergency. This is the architecture of a threat that can never be resolved, only managed, only fought, only endlessly pursued. Think about how many modern institutions depend on a threat that can never be fully eliminated. Think about the wars, the agencies, the surveillance systems, the checkpoints, all built around an enemy that is always almost defeated but never quite gone. The Nephilim narrative didn't just explain the ancient past. It built the template for permanent fear infrastructure. So here is where I leave you tonight, not with an answer, with a question that I want living in your mind long after this video ends. If the most powerful control system ever designed isn't military, if it's narrative, then who is writing the story you currently believe about who the contaminated people are? Who told you which knowledge systems are legitimate and which ones are demonic? Who convinced you that the threat is never fully gone and that the people who manage that threat indefinitely deserve your trust, your taxes, and your silence? The Nephilim may be ancient, but the code they introduced is still running, and most people will never even look for it. You just did. If this episode made you think differently, subscribe, share this with someone who's ready. Stay close. This is Unmasked. What they won't say, what you need to know.